This is the American Roundtable on Tough TV 38 in Orlando, Florida, and the Tough TV network. I'm Al Spry. I'm here with Todd Long. Todd Long has been on the show before. I consider him our political analyst, and he's back again because we just had some primaries in Florida, Arizona, and a couple of other states, and we wanted to kind of get the rundown on that. He's a former congressional candidate and is the author of this book, The Conservative Comeback. And I'm so happy to have you back on. Todd, how you been, man?
Thanks for having me, Al. Great to be with you again.
It's great to have you. And I was just saying, did Trump take your what you put in here and go with it? Because this book's from a few years ago. So I'm thinking maybe he took a little read on it.
I'd like to think he did, but obviously, no. Trump's been passionate about his issues for many years. I'm a small business owner, and so I think the things I'm passionate about, Trump was passionate about. Millions of Americans obviously are. Whether it's making us competitive in the world again, so that whether it's on trade, lowering our corporate tax rate. So basically the people have a chance to get back to work and have good standards of living and make sure our country's safe, whether you're talking about illegal immigration or having a strong national defense. So these are kind of common things that all his fans, including me, have been excited about. And the thing we're excited about Trump for is he's not talk, he's not a politician, he's getting things done. And I think unlike the left and a lot of other people that worry about the daily noise of who called who what names, we care about actually the performance of the job getting done. And the results speak for themselves. As you know, the lowest black unemployment in the nation's history. Hispanic unemployment's really low. The unemployment numbers themselves are low. We're seeing rising wages. And so there's a practical effect in real people's lives that's exciting, and it speaks for itself.
You know, you get to this, and I remember back in the 92 election, it's the economy, stupid. Bill Clinton running against George Bush. And would you say it's still the economy, stupid? Is that really kind of what the driving thing is for the American people?
Well, we're going to find out. And these midterms are going to be the first test, because obviously if it is the economy, the Republicans are going to do real well. You're not going to have this big Democratic wave that a lot of pollsters might lead you to believe we're going to have, because it's not in dispute with the economy. Everybody agrees the economy is doing well, and that's why CNN and a lot of the news channels don't mention anything about the economy. They want to talk about Russia collusion and all this other stuff, because if you talk about the economy, the numbers are incredible. I mean, literally incredible. They're not pretty good, really good. They're fantastic and getting better all the time. And even Obama himself said you're not going to be able to grow the economy at 3 or 4% anymore, which Trump is doing. And that's why Obama in the second term we can all agree, didn't even try. He didn't even have any initiative his second term. And so it's like, well, this is, the best we can do. And Trump's proving it was wrong and proving everybody wrong. And it's happening. And it should happen. You cut taxes a lot, and you get rid of regulations, and you have good trade deals. And
that's why they want to impeach him, right?
Yeah.
Is he doing too good a job? He doesn't have a D before his name.
Well,
otherwise, I guess he'd be on every late night talk show, and just like Obama was, I think.
You either decide you want to. I always say this: you either decide you want to have a world where you have a lot of entrepreneurs and happy entrepreneurs and wealth creators in your country or in your state, or you want to chase them away to other country that will gladly have them. And so for the longest time, we're the nation that's like, hey, if you're an entrepreneur, you work hard, you want to start a business, want to grow a business, this is where you come to do it. And not only is the entrepreneur blessed, but millions of other Americans are also blessed. So the formula is time-tested, and Trump's executing it really well, and we're really proud of him.
And the formula for American Roundtable is we'll be right back with some of the results from the big races that just occurred, and we'll talk about what this means for the American people. Right here on the American Roundtable on Tough TV 38 and the Tough TV network. Welcome back to the American Roundtable. I'm Al Spry. Todd Long, my special guest. Todd, always a pleasure to have you in here. Thank you so much for coming down to American Roundtable.
Thanks for having me again. Love being here.
So let's talk about the races in Florida, the big races, there was a few upsets. Let's start with Andrew Gillum. First of all, I didn't really know the name Andrew Gillum until I see that he beat Gwen Graham, who's Bob Graham's daughter, who was the favorite on the Democratic side. Ron DeSantis pulling one out over Adam Putnam and others. So what do you take from that first race?
Well, I think most Republicans in the state of Florida were focusing on the Putnam-DeSantis race, and it pretty much been concluded that DeSantis, based on the Trump endorsement, and DeSantis had a great conservative record, was going to pull off this big upset against Putnam. Has been groomed by the Republican establishment for the seat for a long time. So this was shocking, but it wasn't shocking given the events the last 4 months. But yeah, a year ago, everybody said Adam Putnam is going to win this thing easily, no matter who he runs against. So that was pretty shocking. But on the Democrat side, it's even more shocking. I think even most Republicans that pay attention to politics don't know much about Andrew Gillum, Tallahassee mayor, and weren't really following that race too much, probably expecting Gwen Graham, Governor Graham's daughter, to win. He pulls off an upset, and I will say this, just, obviously he's getting the support of George Soros and the backing of, I'm trying to think of Bernie Sanders, our friend Bernie Sanders. But really, he was outspent by the other candidates. I give him a lot of credit, just in the sense I saw him speak last night, and even though I may not agree with his policies, he's a very passionate, charismatic guy with a lot of energy, and I can see why he's a very attractive candidate. And the one thing I've heard quickly from a lot of the natural consensus wisdom from my conservative friends is, oh, this is great because he's so far left, he's not going to get the middle. And it's a logical sentiment. But, my mom used to tell me, like, watch out what you ask for, you just might get it. And I'm like, charisma in politics goes a long way. And people aren't based on formulas. People vote for people and people that they like.
That's true.
And people start covering their positions and, all this very socialist rhetoric that Gillum has presented so far to get the nomination, that he wants to do like Medicare for everyone in the state of Florida.
Impeach Trump.
All the things. You're going to hear a lot more toned down. We all got to come together. I'm be working with people on both sides. You'll hear a whole different person who's a very charismatic person. So I would just say to the people in Florida, this may be a very close race. They always are in these statewide elections. He's a very good candidate as far as being personable and being with charisma. So it'll be a fascinating race for us, and it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, what I was surprised is that Philip Levine, he ended up third. I saw more Philip Levine commercials than on anybody else. I think he spent a ton of money. What was your number that you saw?
Yeah, I saw actually Jeff Green too. I didn't see anything from Gillum. So I'm sitting there, which to me, and I was a grassroots candidate when I ran for Congress. So I give the man a lot of credit for not just buying an election, taking an easy road with TV money. He probably really worked hard and really galvanized the people with the socialist, philosophy, which I don't subscribe to. So I give the guy a lot of credit.
Here's the thing, and here's a way to look at this. Now you have a kingmaker on Trump where he goes, all right, we'll vote for this guy, and everybody goes, phew. You got Bernie Sanders on the other side going, vote for this guy. Is that what it's come down to? Has everything become so striated that everything's gone to the extremes left and right, and whoever these two guys say, that's who's going to get it?
I think to some degree, obviously the Democrat Party is moved to the left, and obviously Bernie Sanders has his core support. So when he speaks, it allows the candidate to get a look. So all of Bernie Sanders supporters, I don't think automatically are going, oh, he must be great. But when they hear him talk, he talks like Sanders. The policies are the same. So I think that a lot of what you're saying is right, but at the end of the day, politics is, it's about ideas. It should be.
And the centrists are losing.
Yeah, and both parties are moving their ways, but the country's that way. The country, in a sense, isn't like it used to be, where we might disagree a little bit on the size of the taxes and healthcare a little bit, but we had the same, most people, the same general love of capitalism. The country wanted us to be safe, wanted people to be prosperous. Now it's just, we hate the country, everything's defective in it, we don't like capitalism, versus people who love the founding fathers' values and principles of limited government, personal responsibility, reverence for God. So we really live in one landmass with two different complete views of, so you can't really get compromise out of that.
Haven't seen this really since the 60s. We'll have more on this and the races on the American Roundtable here on Tough TV 38. And the Tough TV network in over 100 affiliated stations. Welcome back to the American Roundtable on Tough TV 38 and the Tough TV network. I'm Al Spry. Will Strickler behind the scenes today doing some special shows with our political consultant Todd Long. He's written The Conservative Comeback, the book that Trump maybe has read and taken a few notes from. Todd, welcome back.
Thanks.
This is an interesting quote. I would like to read it. Now, this is Andrew Gillum. This is I want to say, socialist-leaning candidate, because that's, I guess, what it is now, since the Sanders revolution, I call it, right? So let's take a little look on this. This is a quote from Andrew Gillum upon winning the Democratic primary for governor for Florida for 2018. Quote, "We're going to make clear to the rest of the world that the dark days that we've been under coming out of Washington, that the derision and the division that has been coming out of our White House, that right here in the state of Florida, we are going to remind this nation of what is truly the American way." Now, your take on that, Todd?
Yeah, I think there's two things going on in the race. Is both candidates so far have sort of tried to nationalize the race, Trump versus anti-Trump, when actually they're going to be the governor of Florida dealing with completely different issues that have nothing to do with what Trump's doing up there, which is kind of comical. So it'll be kind of interesting to see whether either of them starts talking about what they'd actually do for the state of Florida. DeSantis, it was smart for him in his race. It was a winning strategy just to nationalize it because he had the Trump support. And obviously, Gillum's strategy has been great. But it's funny when he says the dark days, and that's what you have to figure out, the Floridians got to figure out is, well, dark days compared to what? I mean, if we compare it to before Trump did the tax cuts and got rid of these regulations and became president, well, we know that he's created, 2.2 million jobs have been created. Wages are going up. We know that the black unemployment's fallen to record lows. So it'd be really interesting to see, like, are those dark days? If I was DeSantis, I'd be like, are those dark? Are you mad about blacks being employed? You're mad about rising wages for everybody, minorities, women, everybody? What is it that's dark now that wasn't dark under Obama? I mean, do you want to reverse all this stuff so we can go back to the statistics of the Obama year? I mean, I don't know what he's talking about.
I think from the liberal left perspective, Democrats currently, they think that these are bad times, that the rise of white nationalism and the hate groups, and they're saying, I think that's what they're referring to.
And so I would sit there and again, just go, because I think you're right. They have this image, and then what they'll do, and it's really interesting, like when the Charlottesville rallies took place, there were maybe, 30 to 40 white nationalists. There were some people in Charlottesville. My parents actually live in Charlottesville, retired there. And there were some people upset about, Civil War statutes going down. They've been forever. They weren't white nationalists. They just liked the statutes and have been there. But there were people in that rally, certainly some KKK presidents, some white nationalists, which I understand. Nobody supports that. But it's like we found 40 of these people. And so let's bring the media, let's keep talking about it. In a nation of 300 million people, you're going to have probably 40, 50 self-identified racists, and actually you have a lot more that probably aren't. But but it's so funny that they try to sell the country that there's this big white nationalist, and Trump's out there working with Jim Brown in the inner cities and helping blacks, work and get back to work and employing Hispanics and blacks. And it's like they want to sit there and go, don't believe what the facts are, what your eyes are showing you. Just believe our cute little phrases. And it's like, well, that's silly. Anybody with a brain can see what's going on. And just because you say it's true doesn't make it true.
Identity politics, though, has been part of the Democratic rhetoric since the 60s. So it's like you have to associate with a certain racial or demographic group, and then that group is oppressed. And so the only one that's caring about you are the Democrats. And it's spun like that. And the mean Republicans don't really care about you, right? Because they're only interested in white guys in business or something. I guess that's how the rhetoric is.
That's exactly it. If you look at the rhetoric, it's like, okay, it was the white guys, and it used to be, oppressing blacks. Now it's blacks, women, homosexuals, and Hispanics now, and they're trying to convince the and if we can put these groups together, we can then
that's
have
a voting
power.
block.
Yeah, it's a
voting block.
And the funny part is when they'll talk about things like the women and equal pay or whatnot. And I think Steph Curry, who's actually I like as a basketball player, was talking about some big thing about equal pay for women. It's like women have never done better in this country. I've got 11 women are running companies more successful than anybody. Women are doing great, and they should be doing great. They're talented. They're smart. They actually run companies a lot better than men. Kevin O'Leary from the Shark Tank was over the other day, and he was running a seminar talking about they were studying why they were so much more successful and the qualities they have. Women in this country are not, there's not been any real studies, because no two people have ever had the exact same job to begin with, and there's not been any, any situation like that. So anyway, so they just come up with these narratives, And it's like, again, you either believe what the facts are and what's there for the world to see, or what some politician who wants power is trying to get you to convince you that somehow women are under some attack in America, when it's just not the case. Women are doing fantastic.
This is American Roundtable. We believe that. And I think that the evidence will show that, I believe, as well. We'll be right back with some final thoughts with our friend Todd Long right after this. Welcome back to the American Roundtable. My guest, Todd Long, our political consultant right here on the show, also the author of Conservative Comeback. Look at that. Look at that cover. That's a cool cover right there. And also some great tips about how to come back, make America come back, right?
Yeah.
But you wrote that 8 years ago. Are you happy with what you've seen in the last 8 years? Are you happy with it?
Yeah.
You think we got a shot now?
Yeah, well, I think the Tea Party was kind of on the move at that point, and I was promoting things like the fair tax, which Herman Cain eventually ran with, and Governor Mike Huckabee ran with, and how to balance budgets. Now, obviously, we haven't shrunk government. We haven't got back to the founders' models that states would do education and health care, and there'd be prayer and all the things. So we're not anywhere close to that. But at least when Trump came aboard, there's some significant things have happened. They've cut taxes, cut regulation. They're fighting to secure our borders. So, the people that kind of believe what I believe, we're seeing real life solutions that have a practical difference in our life. And, we're taking better care of our veterans, and we got a strong military. And, we're trying to use a peace through strength model that Reagan was so successful with. So a lot of great stuff's been happening. So, it's been great to watch.
And now let's talk about a Democrat who I like, and I believe you do as well, and that's Jerry Demings, who former Orlando police chief, former Orange County sheriff, who is now the new mayor of Orlando. And his wife is a representative in
Val
Congress.
Demings, yeah.
So I love this couple. I think this is a high-powered couple that is talking straight and not going all the way to the ones. You know what I mean? They're more centrist. And from my opinion, and they've done a good job. I think both of them. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to it actually.
Yeah, I just know Jerry Demings has spoken at my Rotary Club, and I don't know his politics on national issues, things like that.
And he doesn't really blow up about all that stuff.
Yeah, I just know that the guy comes across as a really smart, articulate, hardworking guy that cares about people, and obviously there's a lot of jobs Democrats can do really well and do great. And he seems like he's done a great job. I hope he does a great job as the mayor. Pretty much everybody's sure he's going to win. It was interesting to see the contrast to two Democrats and their fates. You had Demings, who seems very charitable, classy, smart, articulate, and looking out for the people, and humble. And then you had Alan Grayson, who got crushed last night, who by 35 points, which is humiliating for a former congressman to get beat by 35 points in a district he once served. Which showed what the people thought about it. And then Grayson gets on TV and complains it was a Fox conspiracy to spend all this money against him, and it's why he lost by 35 points. And so all the people that oppose Alan Grayson and his kind of hatred for everything this country was founded on, from Christianity to freedom, and was arrogant about it and treated people so poorly, it was great to watch. That was the highlight of the night, I think, on a personal level for a lot of us, watching him get beat just so badly. By Darren Soto, who again is a lot more classy, more of a Jerry Demings style Democrat, classy, nice guy, and it was nice to see that happen.
Yeah, and do you think he's done? Do you think he's going to keep trying, or do you think that's that's a big slap? I would think.
Well, I know he's got to be in the news and power, and so one thing I think with Grayson, the good news is I think he's going to have to move outside of Central Florida to find his liberal seat that are full of socialists that are against this country and everything we stand for. So I think Grayson can find a landing spot, but unfortunately it won't be in Central Florida anymore, so that'll make us all happy over here.
And were there any other races that you thought were interesting?
I think you've got a lot of just races that matter in all our lives, school board races, and I've got a buddy Eric Schwalbach in the school board race over there.
How about the Senate race? Let's talk a little bit about that. We're going to see the governor, the sitting governor Rick Scott, who got his nomination, and then we're going to see Bill Nelson. So
that's obviously the two important races. Obviously for most of us, the governor's race, the U.S. Senate race. these statewide races are so close in the state of Florida. So probably as the fate of DeSantis goes, well, so will Scott. We'll probably have both of them win or both of them lose, and this is the best chance we've ever had, I think, of unseating Bill Nelson,
who's been in for over 40 years, right? In one form or another.
And he just there's no energy in that campaign or anything. I think Rick Scott has come from a guy who has no political friends and had all sorts of issues with some Medicare fraud to the point where most everybody seems to really feel like he did a pretty good job. And
I thought he did.
I did too.
I actually thought he did a better job than most expected.
Exactly.
Including myself.
And the people that used to be so adamant against him, they've lost their intensity for that because he didn't do anything to really fire up anybody in a bad way. And I thought he did a real good job and oversaw, a good time of growth in Florida. And so I think he's well positioned to win.
So what's your prediction then for the Democrat for the Senate race and for the governor's race?
Yeah, I think the Republicans will pull out 2 narrow victories. If they can't, with the economy going this well, they're in trouble, because what's happened in the last 2 years in Florida and in this nation with respect to being safe and prosperous and economies that we're growing at rates we haven't grown in 10, 15 years, and there were policies put in place that led to that by Trump. So I would think that the people would be very appreciative going, hey, we're at least headed in the right direction. And we were talking earlier about how there's a lot of people struggling in Florida around the country. And so nobody's trying to diminish that. But America's a place of opportunity, not guarantee. And
this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking DeSantis will win, and I'm thinking that Nelson will keep his seat. Now here's why.
Well,
because we have both houses controlled by Republicans. We had a Republican governor. We will have another Republican governor. The Democrats are going to go all out to keep some D in Florida. And I think that's my prediction on that.
You may very well be right. I will also say this. Well,
but
you might
will
be right.
Very close.
But I will tell you the intensity and the intensity of the vote and passion of the votes that were cast for these two guys will all be with Gillum, because the people voting for Gillum, young, fresh, new, he'll have so much excitement. Whoever does vote for him, and the votes for Nelson will be like, just vote against free regions. Vote against the Republican. We don't want them to have too much control.
Yeah.
So you might be right, but the intensity of the vote will be with the Gillum people.
It's going to be intensity. I mean, these guys can get their bases fired up, and then once you inject President Trump's tweets,
everybody's excited.
And I even know guys that just say, well, "I wish he would tweet less," but I understand where the tweets come from. It's like the old FDR fireside chats, except nobody listens by the radio anymore and sits and listens to the president. It was a direct line of communication between the president and the Americans. And now Trump has done that with Twitter, in our Twitter age. So I get where he's coming from. It's not that smooth, it's not really that classy, but it's fairly effective, I would say. Would you say?
It's Trump being Trump. That's all you can say.
That's all you can say. I'm Al Spry. Thank you so much for watching this edition of the American Roundtable. Todd Long, thank you as well. Check out Todd Long. Give us your website, Todd.
Yeah, you can go to Todd Long. Well, we'll go for the ToddLongForCongress.com website.
All right, ToddLongForCongress.com. You never know. I might see this guy in Congress. He knows I'd be a great press secretary. So we're putting that right out there. I'm Al Spry. Remember to keep it real and keep it tough.